Hello everyone, this is Maya. Today, we are finishing our series on soul wounds with the wound of injustice, a wound that deeply affects our sense of balance and justice in life. I will be completely transparent. Like the other wounds, rejection, abandonment, humiliation, betrayal, I have felt the wound of injustice very strongly in my life. I often had this need for perfection, this fear that things are not fair, and this demand for myself and others. The origin of the wound of injustice. The wound of injustice usually forms between the ages of 2 and 5, often in connection with a same-sex parent. It appears when a child perceives that the rules or treatments applied to others or to themselves are not fair. For example, being punished when you haven't done anything, seeing a brother or sister rewarded for less effort, or receiving harsh criticism for minor mistakes. The child then develops a deep feeling that the world is unfair and that they must be perfect to be accepted. Signs and behaviors. When this wound is active, the person becomes very rigid, seeks to control everything, and strives for perfection. They may have a strong sense of justice and be extremely critical, both of themselves and others. I see myself very much in this. Typical language: this isn't fair, it must be done well, why can others do it and I can't? I must be impeccable. Associated physical form. The injustice wound often manifests in a thin, tense body, an upright posture, precise and measured gestures. The person may appear very controlled, rigid, with little relaxation in their posture or face. Triggers of the wound. This wound is reactivated when one feels unfairly judged, receives criticism, or when someone takes advantage of us. It can also appear in the face of failure or when observing an imbalance in relationships or at work. My personal experience. For my part, I often felt this need for perfection and control. I was afraid of and horrified by injustice, whether towards myself or others, and this made me very demanding. I wanted everything to be fair, balanced, and for everyone to follow the rules, often at the expense of my own serenity. Over time, I understood that this wound pushed me to seek perfection and balance, but it could also become a hindrance if it was too rigid and unconscious. The path to healing from the injustice wound, involves learning to accept that life is not always perfect according to our perception of perfection, that others are not perfect, and that we are not either. The main steps: recognize the injury and become aware of this demand for perfection. Accept imperfection in oneself and others without guilt. Detach from judgment. Learn to let go of what cannot be controlled. Cultivate flexibility and tolerance for oneself and for others. Reconnect with joy, tolerance rather than rigidity, and find balance in life without seeking absolute perfection, knowing that the divine plan is always better than ours, even if we are not conscious in the present moment. Healing is about rediscovering lightness and serenity by accepting that the world is not perfect according to our perception, and that we have the right to be imperfect, always for the best. Conclusion. The injury of injustice is demanding because it pushes us to control everything and seek perfection. But by embracing it and working on tolerance and kindness towards ourselves and others, we regain a more balanced, freer, and happier life. Like all the wounds I have shared, I know we can move forward and find inner peace. Tell me in the comments, do you recognize yourself in this demand for perfection? Maybe the injury of injustice is affecting your life. Subscribe to discover new transformative teachings and heal yourself deeply from within.